Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate prize. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
To the BCSN SportsWrap. We apologize for the little technical glitch there, and appreciate you guys coming back in once you saw that the feed was back up on YouTube and Facebook and all those other places. Go ahead and make sure to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page, MyJBN1. Or if you're already watching us there on Facebook, hopefully you are already subscribed there. Go download that Jericho Broadcast Network's app, and you'll never have to worry about these kind of things because it'll be there. My JBM, My BCSN is where you can always download and watch the shows. Find it on your Google or Apple Play Store. My JBN or My BCSN is where you can find that store or that
Bryan,
app.
I know you do multiple shows, but did you have to bring the sniper from the ONG over to the BCSN SportsWrap to snipers, man?
That guy just stays in the woods, Drew. I mean, he is what he is. he's not coming out in the woods. Hey, he's not coming out the woods until we get out of our home studios. So let me just put it to you like that. As long as we stay in our home studios, that dude is going to be in the woods, and whenever he gets a chance, man, he's going to fire one off and take us out. So yeah, that guy. Okay. Coming out of the break, we were talking about baseball. We want to take a quick minute to give a little love to softball. We from the Division I level, we'll try to catch up with the Division II and NAIA as best as we can. But we do have some power rankings, our computer rankings for softball. Now, this might be the first week for the softball top 5 computer rankings. Am I correct, Drew?
Yeah, it's top 5. Unfortunately, the graphics department did not have an opportunity to finish the softball graphics, considering that it was the graphics department birthday today. So the graphics department was a little bit preoccupied today.
We understand.
I'll go ahead and admit that.
Those guys work really hard. So yeah, that's
Yes.
why we want you all to contribute to the collection plate that's going around. Dollar symbol, Coach Drew AD. Go ahead and drop in a little bit of love there. So here's the top 5 in the softball power rankings. And Drew, as I go through the 5, maybe you can say where they're at sort of in their conference standing level. Okay. So number 5 out of the MEAC, we've got Morgan State with a total record of 15-13, 6-3 within the conference, 2-0 against HBCUs, if I'm reading that particular graph correctly.
And that is non-conference HBCUs.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right, and where's Morgan at? And go through where Morgan is at in the MEAC in terms of standing.
Well, it just disappeared on me. I just had it. Finish the top 5, and I'll come back and get all the updates. So here we go.
Okay, I'll go through all. You got it?
Yeah, okay. I've got it. Morgan State is sitting in 3rd place, tied with Norfolk State with a 9-3 record. They're sitting tied with Norfolk State at 9-3, but it looks like they're in 3rd place due to a tiebreaker with Norfolk.
Okay, in 1st place, or rather in fourth place in our top 5, Maryland Eastern Shore with an overall record of 12-21. However, they are 9-1 in the conference. I would presume probably sitting very close to the top of the leading board.
Make that 10-2 after today, Brian.
Okay. 10-2 conference record, sitting in first place, yes?
Yes.
All right, coming in at 3, Norfolk State with an overall record of 21-15, 8-3 in conference, 3-1 non-conference HBCU record.
Yeah. The 9-3 conference 9-3 conference record now after today. These rankings were done on yesterday. The current record is 24-15 overall. Of course, the BCSN rankings only take the Division I games into account. So that's the discrepancy that you see when you go to the website versus what Bryan is announcing is because of that. Those are non-Division I games. But your top 4 in the MEAC, Maryland Eastern Shore 10-2, Norfolk and Morgan tied at 9-3, with Howard at 8-3.
Yeah, and I'll mention Howard in just a moment. Top 2 teams are from out of the SWAC. The number 2 team, although their conference or overall record may not be impressive, it's 13-22. Overall, in terms of conference play, they're 9-6, and they have the second toughest strength of schedule in all of HBCU softball. That's the Bethune-Cookman Lady Wildcats.
Correct. Let's go ahead and get the number 1 before I get the SWAC update.
Okay. Texas Southern comes in at number 1. Texas Southern 13-17 overall, 12-3 in the conference. Texas Southern, interesting enough, not terribly bad, probably within the top 10 amongst all of the HBCU softball teams in terms of strength of schedule. But our number 1 team rated power rankings for our first poll of the year, the Texas Southern Lady Tigers. All right, Drew, and where did Texas Southern and Bethune fall in terms of the SWAC standings?
We'll start with Bethune, who leads the East with a 9-6 record, 14-22 overall. Mississippi Valley State is second at 8-6. Jackson State and FAMU are tied with an 8-7 record, although I would have to assume FAMU would have on the tiebreaker after the sweep this weekend. Followed by Alabama State at 7-8 and Alabama A&M at 4-10. Flipping over to the west side, Brian. Texas Southern leads the West by 3 games with a 12-3 record. Alcorn State comes in second at 9. Alcorn State and Prairie View come in tied at 9-6 for second place. Southern comes in fourth place with a 7-8 record, followed by Grambling at 5-10. And UAPB rounds it out with a 3-15 record. What's the note, Brian? There are no teams with an overall record over 500 in the SWAC versus the MEAC, which has 2 teams with an overall record over 500. Those 2 teams being Norfolk and Morgan State. But those 2 teams, despite their overall record being over 500, sit in second and third place, sit tied for second respectively in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference behind 14-win Maryland Eastern Shore.
All right. So shout out to all those softball teams, and we promise by the next show we will make sure to feature the Division II and NAIA women's softball teams as well. Want to get into, before we get ready to wrap up our show, a couple of let's call them NIL related things that kind of caught our eye. The first one, just in case you didn't know, that the state of Louisiana or more so, I should say, the Louisiana High School Athletic Association on this past Thursday voted to allow high school athletes to receive name, image, and likeness benefits. Now, of course, we understand what that means from, or what we've seen from the collegiate level for that, but this is a big deal in Louisiana. You know, one of the names, of course, that is much talked about is the nephew of Peyton and Eli Manning, Arch Manning, um, whose father is Cooper. Cooper was the oldest of the Manning boys. He was actually a receiver. Well, actually, he was a quarterback, and then he moved to receiver in high school when Peyton came along, if I remember the story correct.
Yes.
And so, anyway, Arch is a quarterback being recruited by the top name guys, obviously, you know, Texas, Georgia, Alabama. I think Tennessee might be in the mix. Ole Miss is where his father went, and Eli. So I think Ole Miss is in the mix. Personally, I will be surprised if he goes anywhere other than Alabama. That's just my quick take. I don't know. You got a thought on where he might end up?
No, not really. Not really. He's not. I'm not worried about him because he's not coming into my schools. So
I don't know. Might end up at Southern, Grambling. I don't know. I mean, they should be recruiting him. Hugh Jackson should be trying to recruit Archman into Grambling. Anyway, so anyway, with NIL coming to Louisiana, from the executive director of the LHSAA, they say, per the release, they say they're proud of this positioning statement on NIL has passed our executive committee because it's the right thing to do for all high school student athletes in Louisiana. That amazes me, especially when I think about how other executive directors in other states, Florida, think about things. Anyway, the continued quote here says, NIL is a moving target. NIL is a moving target, which makes ongoing education so important for our entire high school community. We are taking a whiteboard approach to this with a company called Ecker Sports, so that as new rules are established and things change from state to state, our members will always have the current information available to properly guide our kids and their families. We want everyone to be prepared because even if you don't have someone right now facing these challenges, you never know when you might. Here's the thing that caught me, Drew. The state of Louisiana joins Alaska, California, Utah, Kansas, Nebraska, New York, and New Jersey in allowing high school athletes to earn NIL income. And 16 other states are currently considering adopting new NIL rules, while 26 states have actually prohibited high school athletes from earning NIL money. Drew,
Alabama.
This is like probably Florida. Yeah, this is first off, I didn't even know that there were other states. Obviously Alaska, California. I mean, California probably being the biggest name when it comes to collegiate athletics, but this is pretty huge. I had no idea that other states were even focusing on NIL at the high school level. How do kids that look like you and me take advantage of this opportunity?
I think the question probably should be, Brian, how do kids who look like you and me not get taken advantage of when it comes to this NIL stuff? I think that's more of the problem because it and it's a real touchy subject because these are minors, which means because when you're under 18 in most states, you cannot enter into a legal contract. in order to do NIL, you have to enter into a legal contract. So somewhere down the line, either a parent has to sign off on this, or there has to be another adult who signs off on this, who has the right to sign off on this. So that's the one thing that we got to be careful of, is that these children do not get taken advantage of. The one thing about this Louisiana legislation is they call themselves focusing on the education, not only for the student but also for the parent. And I want to read this quote from GoPreps.com. That's GEAUX Preps.com. LHSAA bylaws do not prohibit student athletes from engaging in certain commercial activities in their individual capacities. These activities, generally referred to as name, image, and likeness (NIL), will not jeopardize a student athlete's amateur status if the student athlete complies with LHSAA bylaws 1.25 on maintaining amateur status, as well as the LHSAA bylaws, policies, and regulations. Compliance with LHSAA bylaws regarding NIL does not ensure maintenance of eligibility under the standards of other governing organizations, such as the NCAA, NAIA, or NJCAA, that's a Junior College Athletic Association, national sports governing bodies. Student athletes desiring information on the amateur rules of other organizations should consult with those local organizations. So, Bryan, are we going to an Olympic model such as what you see in Europe, where young athletes are able to earn money? Are we going to something like you see in tennis and gymnastics, where these athletes are able to earn money? And if so, more power to them. But, Bryan, let's be real. We have 21, 22, 23-year-old athletes where they sign their contract and you give them money who don't know how to properly act, don't know how to properly manage their money, because they haven't been in that type of situation before. Just imagine when you give this to a 14, 15, 16-year-old, and obviously we're not talking that type of money unless you're an Arch Manning. We know Arch Manning is the number one high school prospect in football right now. He's already, what's this, 2022, probably the number one prospect in the 2025 or 2026 draft, whenever he's first draft eligible. So we know his contract is going to be worth a little bit more than some of these other some other kids. Obviously, you've got to deal with, high school jealousy. It's already tough enough. You deal with it. You're in academia, so now your star wide receiver or your 6'5" swing man on your basketball team is now garnering $1,000 a month from somebody, and whereas your 5'8" point guard, who is just as key on your team, has to not only go to practice but work a part-time job in between school, practice, and everything else because his family needs money. How do you manage that, coach, on the high school level? It's already tough enough managing these kids who have jobs while they're trying to play sports. Now you got to manage that other extra element of jealousy that's going to do it. And then, are they going to get taken advantage of? Not only by their classmates may be taking advantage of them. The guy at the barbershop may be trying to take advantage of them. There are a lot of different things, and this kind of scares me at this level, Bryan, without the education. And we were blessed. We were from families where our parents were educated. And, knowing if your parents did not have the answer, they knew who to call to find the answer, to guide them along the way to make that type of decision.
Not every athlete is as blessed as you and I were.
You mentioned there on the front line of all those other people that you worried about. The first people you got to worry about is those parents, because you just said it, that this is a contract. So most likely, if you're entering into a contract with a 17-year-old, you most likely have to have their parent involved. So we understand. We just imagine. You pray that this doesn't happen, but it probably will. It does. Imagine the fighting that would go on, especially if a family unit is not together. You see where I'm going here? You know, we've seen single parents fight over much less money than what's potentially coming from off the back of your son, who is the big time star receiver at the local high school. That potentially may be going to LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Texas. You know what I'm saying? Do I need to continue? That's your first worry. Another thing that caught my ear, it says that, well, how does the NCAA respond? Because obviously, if you've been earning money in Louisiana, California, wherever, what happens to your eligibility? Well, maybe not your eligibility, but will you then have to go to college and be you can't get a scholarship based on your play? I mean, because you can still go to school, but maybe you just can't get a scholarship in the same fashion as somebody else who was an amateur and
but why?
earn.
But yeah, and I understand that, because when you go through your NCAA certification, that is one of the questions that's part of your certification process. I'm pretty sure you've helped athletes through their clearinghouse certification, just like I have helped athletes through their clearinghouse certification. So has the NCAA changed hands? I've got one deeper than that for you, Bryan. You're raised in a state. You're playing high school ball in a state that allows NIL, but you're being recruited for college in a state that does not allow NIL.
Well, that's where I was saying. That's what I was going through. You just pointed out, yeah, exactly what you're saying. That's what I was saying. You know,
right. I hate to say it, you talking about the transfer portal. Are we gonna see parents pick up their child and move across state lines, especially when you stay
they do it already.
Especially when you stay in a border like a St. Louis or Cincinnati or Kansas City, or where the next state is 10 miles down the road. Are you gonna see people?
I got you.
Do things like that, just move across to another state where they can make money, even though they're really staying over there, but they got an address in the other state so they can make money. I mean, we already see it when you cross in district lines just to play ball at a certain school. How deep will this go? I mean, the fact that they can earn it, I like it in principle, but I'm scared of the execution. That's my. Am I hitting it on the head with that?
Yeah, you are, and here's where it's gonna. These guys who take advantage of this early on, much like people who are taking advantage of NIL early on, enjoy it, because it will change. Like 2 years from now, this whole thing will look different in 2 years, I believe. So the things that people are doing now, they may not be doing it in 2-3 years from now. You understand, because laws may change. I still don't think you're going to get a federal. Everyone keeps talking about, oh, we want Congress, we want a federal input to help. No, that's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think the NCAA is going to lay down too much of a law in it until you get more presidents deciding to come in and take more of a leadership role and tell the NCAA, because the NCAA works for the college presidents. So until more presidents hear from more boosters, but wait a minute, who's supporting the NIL? Oh yeah, it's the boosters. So why would I shoot myself in the foot and complain to the president about NIL when our NIL deal is helping keep such and such at our college or bring a certain kid to our college? You see what I'm saying? So this is why the best you can do is hope that you're educating kids right. And until you start to see the tax ramification, because that honestly, Drew, I think that's where things will get muddy once people start screwing up their taxes. Once you start screwing up your taxes because you made X amount of money and didn't pay your taxes, oh yeah, that's when S gets real. And all of a sudden, everybody like, "Oh, well, wait a minute, we need some legislation."
just like when you win on those scratch offs or your numbers come in on the lottery, and they ask you that question: do you want us to take the taxes now, or do you want to pay them at the end of the year? You have to know, based on your situation, what you better do. 9 times out of 10, y'all go ahead and get y'all's.
Yeah. You'd be like, wait a minute, where did 40% of my money go? You'd be like,
hey, that was a $1,500. That was $1,500 scratch off. We only got 11.
Right. Exactly. Let's get ready to get out of here, Drew, because the other topic had to do more with education-based bonus payments. Well, this is all we'll say. We'll go headline real quick. An article came out on ESPN just earlier in the week that said only 22 of 130 NCAA FBS level schools say they have plans to provide allowed academic bonus payments to athletes, i.e., get paid for getting grades, right? Novel concept, right? But back in August of 2020, the NCAA changed rules to allow schools to pay each of their athletes up to $5,980 per year as a reward for academic performance. So obviously, they note here that the U.S. Supreme Court solidified that ruling, which came as a result of those legislate. Or actually, see, here I'm just going to read right out the article here, so I don't mess this up. The oddly specific dollar amount was calculated during the legal proceedings because it is equal to the maximum amount of financial value an athlete can receive in 1 year from awards related to their athletic performance, such as Conference Player of the Year or the Heisman Trophy. The U.S. Supreme Court solidified the judge's ruling with a 9-0 decision in the NCAA versus Austin case last June. So schools just aren't ready. It's money. Now, at the FBS level, Drew, you do the math. How many student athletes are probably at an FBS school? If you just had to guesstimate, 200,
250, 250, 300. Well,
all right, let's go.
How many? Are you saying scholarship athletes or athletes in general? Because you have your fair share of walk-ons and things like that.
No, it says all student athletes. If you are a student athlete,
so you're probably talking 250 to 300. Probably talking 250 to 300.
All right, so let's just say 300, right? 300 student athletes among all your sports, and you can give up to $5,900 for their performance for the year. I mean, you do the math on that, right? 300
academic performance
times 6,000.
But what it says for academic performance. So what qualifies as academic performance? That's my first question.
That's a good point. This article doesn't point that out, but yeah, every school would obviously have to establish.
Let's just say 3.0.
I would imagine you probably, in order to receive an athletic honors, you probably have to do 3, right?
Right, and then it kind of graduates up from there.
Right. So of that 300, you probably only have maybe 200.
Usually, Brian, most athletic departments are usually about anywhere from 25% to a third of them are at that 3.0 level or above when you talk, especially when you're talking in Q.
Okay, so 330.
So that's 75 if you take 25%. That's 100 if you take a third.
Okay, so what? Wait a minute. You're the math guy. What's the number left? How many? Give me the number left. 25% of 300.
75.
Okay, so 225 then. So 225 times $5,900, right? Do the math. You're getting heavy into the 6, might even be real close to 7 figures, right? So at this point, schools are trying to figure out how to set up the system, but more importantly, where to get the money from, right? So now, spin this forward to HBCUs, right? How is this system set up for HBCUs? It's probably not, right? Because it's bad enough we talk about budgets all day, every day, and where's the money coming from? But where are you going to find $1 million, let's say, right, to take care of your student athletes for their academic performance? Where's that money?
When you talk about Division I budgets that are probably about $10 million for all of your sports, add another 10% to the budget. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, that's what you would have to do probably in order to be able to cover this cost, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how this falls in under. It's just one of those financial systems that are in place for student athletes that our schools aren't quite prepared to take advantage of. But, I just thought it was interesting that, again, you've got, I mean, what's that? 20%, less than 20% of FBS level schools are actually taking advantage of this. And there may only be one HBCU that is taking advantage of this. Maybe we'll share that next week as to who that one school is. Just off some information that I have seen recently. I had to do a little research to see if we can find out who that school is, or at least share with everybody who that school is. All right, Drew, wrap it up. Final words as we get ready to close out today's show.
Just looking forward to another great week of HBCU sports. It's for baseball and softball, Brian. It's you get a dog days of August. It's the dog days of April now for conference baseball and conference softball. We're starting to see separation everywhere, but in MEAC baseball, because everybody is still your leader is still one game above 500. Coppin is still one game above Maryland Eastern Shore and Delaware, and Norfolk is still sitting in the basement. After a weekend series, we're still in the same place. Nothing has changed. But anyway,
Hashtag MEAC.
MEACish. Hashtag MEACish. But seriously though, you're starting to see separation in the other conferences, both on all levels, Division II, NAIA, and your Division One baseball and softball. So this will be a critical week. Some teams will play themselves out of the race and possible tournament bids. Other teams will still be around fighting for those. And down at the SIAC, you basically a couple of teams start wrapping up and know whether they'll be number 1 and number 2 seeds. That being Savannah State and Albany State in baseball, Tuskegee in softball. And Albany State in softball. Those two may start wrapping it up.
All right. So that's a little something to look forward to. Hey, I want to remind everybody out there, appreciate you, whatever donations or contributions to the AD slush fund. We appreciate it. Hopefully you guys were able to show them some love out there.
You say lush fund? Did you say lush fund, Brian?
No,
you say lush fund? I'm just messing with you.
The $ Coach Drew, DREWAD. Again, you can go ahead and give a man a little, show him a little love. A little love. We appreciate it. A little cup of coffee, something to kind of get through the day or evening tonight. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support of the BCSN SportsWrap on the Black College Sports Network. Make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1, the number 1. And make sure to catch up with the shows, all of our shows, part of the BCSN Pod Zone, which you can catch any and everywhere that you download and listen to podcasts. So that's going to do it for tonight. Special thanks to our guest, Charles Edmond, for joining us. And for AD Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. Thanks for watching. Shout out to our producer, Roy, in the background. You guys be safe out there. Be smart. Make good decisions. And that's going to do it. So you guys be good. Thanks for watching. Now.
I'll holla.
But stay hard.